Hey everyone, there's Murray Fife here. Yesterday I spent some time streaming talking about setting up one of the companies within Dynamics 365 within the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 environment. And today I thought that I'd go through and expand on that and uh, as promised, and talk about setting up some of the vendors that we have in the company. So what we're going to do today is we're going to explore some of that. There's going to be some setup that we're going to do along the way, but maybe this will give everyone sort of like a good idea of how all of the vendors are set up in the system and how we're setting them up within the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 environments. And keep in mind that you can do this yourself. You can download the database if you want to and self-host, or I've got a handful of lab environments similar or exactly the same as the one that I'm actually using here that you could go out and do the same yourself. So let's work on this. So what I've got is I've got my environment here, and what we've got is we've got the Waterdeep Trading Company. This is the core data set that gets set up and configured when you work through the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 training material. And also what we've got in here is we've got these configured with vendors. And I talked yesterday about how we're setting up this additional organization, which is the Herbalist Guild, that has their own vendors that may or may not sell to the Waterdeep Trading Company and may or may not supply to the Faerûnian Board of Trade, which is another legal entity that we've got. Now, if I look at my companies that I've got, just to reintroduce you, we've got all of these other entities that we can go out and we can start gamification, we can start setting up all of these different items. And one of these, or the one that I'm working on right now, is the Herbalist Guild. So there, if we look at what we set up yesterday, we went through the product information and started setting up some of the raw materials. And one that we set up was sage, that we could go out and we could price this out and we could have all of the core information set up here within the product for this. But what we want to do is we want to go and buy this. So the next phase that we want to do is to set up a vendor that we can actually purchase this from. Now, if I go back to my accounts payable and look at my vendors, then we'll see that we don't have any vendors set up in the system. So let's go out and do this. As we do this, there's going to be some additional configuration that we're going to do because this is a new legal entity. So this is what we're going to do is we're going to really set this up from scratch, and we're going to jump around a little bit, but it gives you an idea of how we can set this up. Now, what I did is I went out and wanted to create a new profile. So what we've got is I got our trusty ChatGPT to create a new vendor profile for me for the Herbalist Guild. So we've got Thistlethwain Greenroot, who's going to be our herbalist, and they've been active for 17 years. They're up in the Deepingdale Forest, and they've got some license information. So we've got some workshop information. We've got the some of the address information here. And also what we've got is we've got some contact information. Now, in addition to this, I went out and also got the address that we've got here. I think we've got the actual address here with the region. So it's in Deepingdale Forest Edge and Mistledale and the Dale Lands, and we've got a postal code that we've set up here. The postal codes are really important. or will be important for transportation management. So even though there's no official documentation in the Dungeon and Dragon realm, I went out and I created the postal code format. And O2 is for the Dale lands. And then we've got the Deepingdale set up here as the postal code, or the Mistledale. And then we've got this broken out into the different formats. So if we can see here, we've got Dale lands, we've got Dagger Falls as the city code. There's a ward and there's a street that's associated with this. So what we're going to find is we're going to have to go back and reference this information quite a bit as we move through and set up the address. And this is all part of the different different setup that we can go out and set up. So let me go back and find my worker. Let's see. Go back to here. I think I'll just refresh this. Let's try and find the guild again. Okay, so we've got our Thistle-Twain Greenwood. So let's go out and set up some of this information that we've got and set them up in the system. So let's return back here to my application. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and create the new vendor. Now this is going to, I think, what we've got here is we've got the vendor count is manually assigned. So this is something that I'm doing within the demo data, where I can manually assign the vendor account. You may want to do this as a auto number, but for me it's easier to go out and use people's names rather than numbers, partly because this just gives me a nice sort of format to work with. So the good thing is that we can set up the vendor account, and we can use her full name. And then I'm going to make this a person, and we're going to set this up as Thistle-Twain and then Greenroot. Now, also what we're going to do is we're going to assign this to a vendor group. And let's have a look and see. We've got herbal vendors here, so we don't have to go out and configure a new vendor group that's associated with this. But if we want to, we can go and look at the details here, and we can see any terms of payment that are set up. And we don't have any because we haven't configured that portion of the system yet for the Herbalist Guild. But we can go and start managing these and changing the currencies that are associated with them. Now, also we can go out and we can set up the address information. So let's save this record. So the vendor account. Sorry, let me. So what happened is when I changed this to a person, then the vendor account got taken out. So let's save this and start filling in some more of the information. So we've got the standard language for this is Faerûnian Common. We can specify any of the gender information if we want to. But what we want to do is we want to go out and we want to add an address that's here. Some of this address information may not be set up in the system, so we'll have to go out and manage that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a name. So this is going to be Thistle-Twain Greenroot, It's the business address. The country is in Faerûnian. So we've got that configured here with the address format. And notice that this is by default. This is going out and it's asking us for the zip code, the city, the district, which is going to be the ward or the district, and the state. So let's see how much of this information that we've got set up already. So if we look at the zip codes, then we have some of the address information set up with the wards. And what we can do is we can put them in just the Dagger Falls zip code. So the way that we've got the zip code set up is that we have the state or the province, and then the region, which is Dagger Falls. And then if we wanted to, we can go out and we can have the ward and then also the street details showing up. But I'm just going to choose Dagger Falls that we've got here. So let's go back to our address, and Green Root Grove Remedies is on the Moss Rock Knoll, and there we've got some additional information here for the location. Let me go back here, then we can set the address here. Now for Dagger Falls, we've got some of the districts that are set up. Let's put them in Market Ward for now, and then add them as a vendor. So now what we've got is we've got their complete address showing up here for Thistlethwaite Green Root, and then we can also go out if we have some information. We can see other information. For example, we've got their contact information for their mirror ID and their sending stone. I don't know whether we've got any of this information set up here, but what we can do is I could add some contact information, and I could, let's add this for the phone number, and add that here and make this a primary contact information. So now that we go through, we can also add some information. We can add the buyer group, and this is, we'll have them associated with the herbal buyer group. And then if we wanted to, we could have any vendor profiles associated with it. The currency is the Faerûnian standard dollar. We could change that to gold pieces if we want, and then change any of the other number sequence group that we want as well. So what we've got is, if I go back to here, now we've actually got the Thistlethwaite Green Root is set up. They're set up as a vendor, and we can now work on these and do some more sort of manipulation to this, which will follow up in a later presentation. I don't want these to be super long, so this is only around about 15 minutes as we're sort of testing this format, but it gives you a good idea of how we can go out and set up these this contact information. Now, before we finish, one thing that we'll note is that if we've got Thistlethwaite here in the Herbalist group, but if we go over to the Waterdeep Trading Company, then notice we don't have them set up here in the vendor because they're not an authorized vendor right now, and we could add the vendor to this legal entity. For example, I could copy this, and we could go from the Herbalist Guild, and we could go out and look for those vendors, but I don't want to do that right now. I just want to continue on. So keep in mind that you can go out and you can try this out yourself. You can work through this. We've got lab environments that you can go out and lease for a while if you want to go out and manage this, or we've got resources where you can set this up yourself and run through these examples within the Advanced Dungeons and Dynamics 365 sort of concept that we've got. So I want to finish this and thank you for your time. This has only been around about 15 minutes on the dot. but it gives you an idea of how we can set some of these things up. And so I'll talk to you next time.